One of wrestling's funny little secrets is that the backstage feuds are way more interesting than the in-the-ring feuds. We were dying to know what really happened between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. Did CM Punk's best buddy really bite Kenny Omega? You're telling me that Chris Jericho took down Goldberg, and it's not always the fellas causing all that ruckus. I'm Senior Siete for 7 Wrestling, and let's take a look at 7 real-life WWE women's feuds. Now, before we get into this, we appreciate your support, so if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and figure 8 that notification bell. Number 1. Sunny vs. Sable. This may be difficult for modern day fans to wrap their brains around, but there was a point where there was only one woman on camera in all of WWE. Yep, no women's title, no women's tag team titles, no women, just one woman. And her name was Tammy Sunny Sytch, and she was a huge deal. In fact, at the time, the WWE touted the fact that she was the most downloaded woman on AOL. Oh boy, you're not going to make me explain what America Online is, are you? Just know that it was a very, very big deal. Sunny would get so popular that Vince McMahon would have this brilliant idea that if one woman is good for business, then more women would be better. This opened the door for Goldust to bring in Molina as his manager, Flash Funk to dance his way to the ring with the Funkettes, and Mark Marrow to be escorted by his wife, Rena Marrow, better known as Sable. And things got off to a rough start between Sunny and Sable during a promotional bout for the Karate Fighters line of toys. It looked like Sunny had picked up the victory, but it was later determined that Sunny had stuck her fighter to the pedestal using a piece of gum, a clear violation of the rules. Both Sunny and Cyberfist were immediately disqualified. Just kidding. Can you imagine? No. The hatred between Sunny and Sable apparently kicked off when Sable stiffed Sunny with a slap to the face, although, in Sable's defense, she hadn't been trained at this point, and accidents happen. And from there, the duo were kind of separated. It made all the sense in the world to have a feud between the two, but it just never happened. Sunny would eventually say, "A lot of people think that I had professional jealousy, or that's what the heat was about, but that's completely not the case. She had her character and her role, and I had my character and my role. They were completely different. I was like the all-American girl next door that you wanted to bring home to mom and marry, and she was like that racy, risque kind of girl that you wanted to bring to a hotel room for an hour and leave on the curb." Subtle. At any rate, things would get rougher between the two as Sable Star would rise after her bikini contest appearance at the 1997 Slammies, and Sunny would fall out of favor with the company. The bad blood continued for years, with Sunny getting into a fight with a fake Sable on MySpace. Oh, come on. You're not going to make me explain what MySpace is. Long story short, when Sunny learned that it wasn't the real Sable she was beefing with, she'd say, "Well, now I'm being told that the Rena on MySpace is a fake. I don't know where the post that she wrote came from, so I don't know if it's fake or not, but in any sense, I still don't like the pig." Yikes. Then, in Sunny's book A Star Shattered, Sunny would call out Sable for allegedly having an affair with Ken Shamrock, and then claim that Sable got her start as a stripper at the Gold Club in Atlanta. Which, hey, you were a stripper is a weird insult coming from somebody who later on in that book would brag about how much fun it was to make adult films. Maybe the best way to think about this feud is Tammy has been doing all the talking, so Sable, she's probably just fine. Oh, and, Tammy's in jail. Number 2, Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch. One of my favorite modern matches took place in 2015 at the first ever NXT TakeOver Brooklyn when Bayley defeated Sasha Banks to claim the NXT Women's title. It was perfect. The entrances were epic. The angle was white hot. Both women delivered in the ring. Go back and watch it if you haven't in a while. The way the crowd just goes through the roof when Bayley hits that final Bayley to belly will put a smile on your face. And when it was over, the duo was joined in the ring by their 4 horsewomen partners Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. It was the end of an era for Lynch, Flair, and Banks as they were already on their way to the main roster, and it was the beginning of a new era in women's wrestling as their matches would receive more attention and more screen time. The quartet was always a little unbalanced, At the time, Bayley was arguably one of the best good guys in the business. Sasha Banks' boss character was a hot bad guy, and Charlotte Flair seemed to rise above all of them as the best of the best. And Becky, well, she was just kind of there. I mean, she was talented and charismatic, but she just hadn't found her thing yet. Yes, steampunk enthusiast wasn't quite the game-changing gimmick. But that all changed at SummerSlam 2018 when Becky turned heel, and then the audience let her know that in no uncertain terms were they going to accept this heel turn, and then they turned her into the biggest women's draw of all time. And to Becky, it seemed like Charlotte wasn't as supportive of her rise to the top as Becky had been when it was Charlotte's turn. All of this animosity seemed to come to a head when Becky was the SmackDown champion and Charlotte was the Raw champion, and they had both been drafted to the opposite brand. So, on the October 22nd, 2021 episode of SmackDown, the duo was scheduled to exchange belts, which is kinda dumb. And drafts are pretty dumb. I'll never understand why they don't treat the different brands like sports teams who do trades. Leave the drafts for the NXT talent, but I digress. On Steve Austin's podcast, Becky would say the plan for the segment was, I grab it out of her hand unknowingly, I'm Becky 2 belts her second, then I toss her the title. Then she tells Sonya to pick it up, then she challenges me to a fight. Instead, Charlotte dropped her belt on the floor and Becky chucked her belt at Charlotte. It made no sense and was awkward. This led to the duo getting into it backstage with Becky accusing Charlotte of trying to make her look bad. In her biography, Not Your Average Girl, Becky Lynch would say, Mine and Charlotte's heated rivalry reached the boiling point when we had one of the shittiest segments in SmackDown history. When during a title exchange, I felt she deliberately went off script, leading to me yelling in Gorilla that she was a, to use my exact words, crafty fucking cunt, right in front of Vince and a plethora of onlookers, and her denying it was intentional emphatically. On the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, Becky would say, We don't like each other. We used to, so I'm sure she would give you a different side and I'll give you my side, is that my star was rising. We were best friends and it all worked when she was on top and I was below, and then we could all see the way things were going in 2019. Like people were really rallying behind me and this turn would turn me into a different league, and she couldn't take that and was never able to take it. Charlotte denied any wrongdoing, saying to Steve Austin, I wish I could sit here and tell you I did it on purpose, but if people need me to be the bad guy, I'll be the bad guy. Things happened on screen. I would never go on a scripted television show and purposely do something on purpose. Fortunately, this one seems to have a happy ending as the duo seem to have mended fences. During an interview with Cheap Heat, Lynch would say, if she ever needed anything, I'd be there for her, and I think if I ever need anything, she'd be there for me. I think that trumps all. I think life's too short to hold these animosities for too long. Aww. T-Generation X is back. Number 3, Molina versus Candace Michelle. WWE Tough Enough and the WWE Diva Search were talent initiatives that sold a very enticing proposition. You too can be a WWE superstar. And while tens of thousands of hopefuls flocked towards these opportunities and a handful of people were actually able to parlay them into an actual career, there was always going to be a problem. That problem is, wrestling is a business that values people paying their dues. Look, if I hit a home run every time I swing a bat, I could start for the Yankees tomorrow. But if you get your wrestling spot through a reality show, you're going to have some problems. This was the case when Candace Michelle became the first ever Divas Search contestant to win the WWE Women's title, and Molina, the then champion, was not psyched about it. Michelle would tell the Wrestling Inc. Daily podcast she just hated the fact that she came up with the indie scene and wrestling school. She busted her butt that way, and to her, I was this pretty girl from Hollywood who just got lucky and got a deal. For her to wrestle against me was almost a disgrace for her, and she made that very clear. The two got into it on Twitter and nearly came to blows, with Michelle saying, we hated each other. We were legit going to get into a real fight at a house show. They managed to work through these differences and perform together at the Vengeance Day Night of Champions Premium Live event. This duo has patched things up as well, with Michelle saying, years later I just shook her hand and we're friends now, and I just said, you know what, thank you for that, because I'm not so sure I would have become the champion if you were nice to me back then. Number 4, AJ Lee versus Lita. One of the cool things about so many of today's talents being fans before they got into the business is the adorable fan photos that exist. Here's a young MJF with his hero CM Punk. Here's young Bayley next to John Cena. Aw, and here is a young AJ Lee having a moment as she meets her idol Lita. That is sweet. What's less sweet are the accusations that AJ Lee would grow up, join the WWE, and start seeing CM Punk behind Lita's back. Now, again, these are all accusations, but we'll admit the timing is fishy. It doesn't help matters that at the time a cartoon was being passed around the WWE locker room that recreated Lita and AJ meeting at that autograph signing years ago, and then finished with AJ in bed with Punk, and AJ asking him to call her Lita. Yikes to the yikes. Now, while we're at it, we're just going to hit the "this might all be rumors" button once again, but Lita's whole career took a U-turn when she was outed for cheating on her then-boyfriend Matt Hardy with his then-best buddy Edge. And on an episode of Oral Sessions with Renee Paquette, Lita lamented the fact that she's constantly asked about that event, but the men who were in that situation are not. She'd say, "My relationships are commented on a regular basis on my Instagram, still on social media. Meanwhile, all of the men involved, anything not controversial like Punk, Edge, or Matt, I guarantee they don't get asked about it." Whoa, Lita, who said anything about Punk? Ooh, again, it all seems fishy. Number 5, Deborah versus Tory Wilson. This one feels a little weird because it seems like the pair were only on the WWE roster together for a very short time. Now, when we think of Stone Cold Steve Austin, we think of the beer-swilling, ATV driving, ass-whooping machine. Not like, a ladies' man, but he has to have some game. He was able to score both Lady Blossom and Deborah McMichael, and apparently, Deborah believes she caught none other than Tory Wilson trying to audition for a little time with that Stone Cold condom. Yes, they actually really sold those. In a shoot interview, Deborah would say she was hitting on Steve. This was more of a girl-to-girl, woman-to-woman hitting on my husband, which all women can relate to. I don't play that way. I just grabbed her by the arm and was like, "Hey, you need to come here right now." And I just told her that if she didn't stop, I was going to kick her butt. That was disrespectful. This is my husband. And she was crying. Her nose was running. Tory would go on to refute this claim, saying, "She, for some reason, thought I was obsessed with Stone Cold at one point, even though I had maybe said 2 words to him. She really hated me. The girl wanted to fight me at one point." Well, as long as it was a fight and not a wrestling match, because that would be terrible. Number 6, the Bella Twins versus Maurice. In 2012, the Bella Twins left the WWE to pursue other creative interests. However, it was around this time that the WWE had started working with the E! Network to produce a reality show called Total Divas. This Real Housewives-esque program would show the trials and tribulations and drunken ranting of the women of the WWE. Needing to beef up the roster, the WWE was in contact with a variety of former talents in an effort to bring them back into the fold. Among them were the Bella Twins, Maurice, Kelly, and Maria Kanellis, to name a few. When it was all said and done, for some reason, the Bellas were brought back and the others were not. The original cast for the show would include the returning Bellas, current roster members Summer Rae, Natalya, Naomi, Cameron, and new stars JoJo and Eva Marie. However, there were very real whispers that the Bellas had somehow blocked Maurice, Kelly, and Maria from returning due to their high-profile boyfriends Daniel Bryan and John Cena. Years later, when Maurice would return to the WWE, she would appear on the program, and Brie and her would have it out. Brie would say, "Maurice and I were friends at work, and there was a little part of our time we lived together, even though we never saw each other, but her and I had a huge falling out about 3.5 years ago due to Maurice thinking that I had blocked opportunities from her. Maurice, Nicole, and myself got offered a really great work opportunity. Unfortunately, they decided they only wanted my sister and I. Now, business is business, but somewhere along the line, Maurice thought my sister and I blocked her from a contract." Over dinner, Maurice would claim that she had a contract in her hand, but Brie had encouraged her to turn it down so they could all work together to get more money. And after she did turn it down, she didn't hear from the Bellas for 3.5 years. Nikki Bella would later claim that the WWE contract offer that they were working together on was separate from the Total Divas contract and that E! was only interested in having the Bella Twins on the show. Long story short, they were able to put their differences aside and work several programs together, with Maurice and her husband The Miz facing off with Nikki and her almost husband John Cena at WrestleMania 33. We also got to see Maurice and The Miz going against Brie and her husband Daniel Bryan at Hell in a Cell 2018. And Maurice got a small measure of revenge by busting out her amazing Bella impersonation. Number 7, Paige versus Lana. Have you ever seen the 2019 movie Fighting with My Family? It tells the inspirational tale of Soraya Knight, a British independent wrestler who grows up in a wrestling family and eventually makes it to the big time of the WWE and wins the WWE Women's title. It's a fun little comedy about the superstar then known as Paige, and it is definitely worth your time, but there is one part of the movie I had a little trouble with. When Soraya moves to the United States to become a part of the WWE developmental program NXT, she feels like she doesn't fit in because the rest of the recruits are all super sexy. This is how it was portrayed in the movie, and this is how Paige looked in real life, which begs the question, is this the first time they've made someone look less sexy in a movie? Anyhow, this all leads to what might be a second misleading part of the portrayal, in that in 2015, the ravishing Russian Lana accused Paige of being a bully during her time in NXT. Paige played this off as Lana trying to start a storyline, but it clearly was a sticking point between the two. The heat between the duo would fire up again in 2018, where both were cast members on Total Divas. Wow! Drama on a reality show. Who'da thunk it? A dust-up regarding sleeping arrangements during a trip to Lake Tahoe led to Paige getting ready to physically take Lana out, but Paige claims that Nia Jax was able to prevent an actual brawl. Fortunately, it seems like these two have managed to mend fences as well, which is good because it would have made the 15 minutes that Lana was in AEW seem very awkward. Well, there's our list. Did we forget any other real-life women's wrestling feuds? If so, please leave them in the comments section below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hammerlock that notification bell. Until next time, I'm Senior Siete for 7 Wrestling saying bye-bye.